Hello, everyone.
Hi everybody, we hope you're having a great weekend and a good Sunday. I know that we have so far, we were able to go to the beach this afternoon for the first time in a while. If we look any sunburned, I do a little bit. But thank you guys for joining us. Tonight we're going to be talking about things that that are time wasters, not necessarily in the things that you do inefficiently or things that take up a lot of time, but rather things that you're wasting time on doing that you could be being productive in other areas that are more, I would say, more mental or psychological time wasters than practical time wasters.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think mental space, it's taking up mental space and your focus and your energy.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that we don't, it's so easy to think, oh, well, I don't want to waste my time doing X, but we don't really manage how am I spending my energy, and this can be simply just sitting on your couch or, doing your daily activities. It doesn't have to be something where you're physically out there, getting after it.
Yeah, and I think that these things, they definitely, when I thought about them more, and looking at my own life, like you said, it does take, the psychological impact is heavy.
Yes,
and
super heavy.
It saps you of a lot of energy. And if you had just gone ahead and done the thing that you were agonizing over,
right,
then that really takes away some of that heavy weight that you deal with on a daily basis by dealing with these time wasters that we're going to get into.
Yeah. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a countdown. I thought I'd do my top 3 or something like that. I don't know if they're actually the top 3, but these were the top 3 that I came up with. So the first one is comparing yourself. This one is super easy, especially where we are right now, social media. I don't know about you, but this is a super big temptation for me. This has been something I've really battled in the past. And one really big, something that really impacted me, I don't know if you remember this, but early on when we had moved here, I did a devotional with a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, Maria, and we just did it over Zoom, and it was The Comparison Trap by, I think it's Sandra Stanley, Andy Stanley, and I think her name is Sandra, they're husband and wife, and they did this incredible series. You can just buy the book on Amazon, and then they have an app that you can download with all the videos or whatever, but they just talked about how, comparison is a thief of joy, and we hear that a lot, and it's sort of yeah, I know that, but here's the thing, it's a thief of your joy, it's a thief of your general happiness, your general way that you can just go about and be you and be in your life, You can't just sit around and compare your life to literally everyone else's and possibly have any kind of semblance of gratitude or contentment in your own life and who God made you to be, So this was something that was really powerful for me. And one of the examples that he made that I'll never forget in one of the videos was he was talking about how each person is kind of like a shelf, like a bookshelf, imagine a bookshelf, okay? And let's say that on Matt's shelf, he has some, what do you call those? Bookends and some really interesting maybe business books, or maybe he has a box of some cool pictures or something like that. Different things on his bookshelf. And then I have maybe some different types of books, and maybe I have some framed pictures, and maybe I have a little cutesy little pumpkin because it's fall, whatever. I have different things on my shelf than Matt does, right? And so he was like, don't be comparing your shelf to somebody else, because it's God, you messed up. You messed up my shelf. You didn't give me the, cool books that you gave Matt. Except, no, he gave you what he gave you. And he had you in mind. And we're always, of course, able to develop new skills and all that stuff. But I just thought that was so powerful, that example.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. I think, when we are comparing ourselves to other people, we are in some ways, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. I think it starts early with us, and we kind of continue that trend throughout, you know, high school, college, then into, you know, adults, into our career. And we're always looking at those people around us who we think are a little bit ahead of us or think we're giving a leg up. And so I think it really takes, you know, some introspection and really digging into why are you comparing yourself to such and such person? What is it that they have or you think they have that you don't? And then instead of making it about them and what you don't have, well, how can I get there? And I think even in some cases, you're really more jealous of the feeling, or you think they have something that you don't, or you think that they've achieved something that you don't. And if you really dug into that feeling of what it is, you could really kind of isolate some of the things we've talked about before and go after something that you're passionate about and something that is really going to bring you fulfillment. Because what that person has, whether it's status or money, you may not really even be after that thing that's going to bring you fulfillment, but you just like what it seems like the life they have,
how it looks, the perfect social media, you know, life. But that's not reality, you know.
It's not reality, and we don't know. A lot of times, we don't really know what we assume in our minds that they got there easily or more easily than our path, and we don't know that.
There's a lot of hard work behind that.
We're just seeing the facade and assuming that they got there a certain way or it was easy for them. And a lot of times that's, you know, just not the case.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at somebody's quote highlight reel, you know, you see the end product, you see where they are now, but you don't see the 25, 30 years that they put in before that. You don't see all the silent wins, all the things that they did behind the scenes, how many things they sacrificed. You know, you don't see that side of things, for sure. And also, I think too, we have to realize, like, there are some things, yes, career-wise or goal-wise or things like that we can achieve, and then there's some things that, like, you know, I'm not going to look like X, you know, per se, just because of how I was made, right? And that's okay. Like, that's learning to love ourselves for who God made us to be is so important. I think we underestimate that, you know. There's so many times I do this and I have to go, no, God made her that way, and that's wonderful, and he made you this way, and that's wonderful, and you can both exist in this world and bring beautiful things to it, you know, and contribute.
I mean, I think that takes self-awareness and self-care and doing the work to really value yourself and learn who you are and learn who God made you to be and what God's opinion of you is. I think when I've looked back recently on some of the decisions I've made and why I've done certain things and what influenced me, the people I looked up to growing up and that I wanted to be like, and took on some of their characteristics, and I really started to think, well, was I really doing what I wanted, or just what I thought was going to be cool, or what this person I looked up to would respect? And so we have to kind of peel back those layers sometimes and see, is this really even what I wanted? Is this even who I am and what I value? Or was I just taking on the characteristics or qualities of other people that I looked up to, and I wanted them to care about me. I wanted their respect. I wanted their affection or love, whatever it is, their friendship. And then I think that is going to make, you know, a big difference. And the other thing, you know, when we're comparing ourselves to other people, you know, if it's, you know, money or status or jobs, then that they're probably good at that thing because they have a passion for it, or they've pursued it or put in the work. And I haven't done that in that area. And so I should not expect the success that they've gotten.
Right.
And if I went down that path, I might hate that path.
Absolutely.
So that's why we have to, you know, I think it's more important to gain, to be inspired by what other people have done and say, hey, they achieved X, so there's no difference to me.
What's possible.
I can do something like that in my own field, in my own area. And use that as inspiration instead of that jealousy and that envy that often we let it turn into instead of an inspiration. And
how many times have we been sitting there comparing when we could be doing something that's moving us toward our goals? Something that we actually want to do. Like, you know, you may look at somebody on Instagram and go, wow, they get to travel to like all these countries all the time. They're traveling all the time. But have you talked to somebody who travels all the time? Like, is that something that would make you happy? I'm not saying, I know like going on trips or whatever is fun, but I'm saying if you've talked to somebody who travels like most of the weeks of the year, some of them love it and it's for them. Some of them don't. Some of them have to do it based on their career. But the point being, you may not love that thing, just like you were saying. And it's like, it's okay. Like, try to put yourself in their shoes for a second and go like, that's for them. It may or may not be for me. If it's for me, then I need to be inspired by them, and I need to get my eyes off of thinking that it's a competition and I have to compare my life to somebody else's and go, I'm already enough right now. Who God made me to be is already enough right now, and I need to go and pursue what He wants me to do with my life.
I agree, but I do think there's a fine line between, yes, who God made you to be is great, but you still may have a lot of work to do. We're not saying that you should just, how you are right now is okay, and you shouldn't be better, you shouldn't do more, you shouldn't step into your potential and step into what God wants you to do or who He wants you to be. There's a difference between, I think, self-care and self-love and accepting not moving forward and being lazy or being complacent.
Absolutely.
And so when we use that language, sometimes it's very popular now to talk about self-care and loving you where you are and loving who you, accepting yourself.
Sure.
And yet, yes, in some extent, and I don't know the exact way to say it, but there are times when we need a kick in the pants, when we need somebody to tell us, no, you're not doing enough, you're not doing what you should do. If you want to, you're saying you want to be at whatever level, well, you're not doing, your actions aren't matching that.
Yeah, aren't matching the
And
language.
so there are times when, yes, God loves you, you have a lot of potential, but that doesn't mean you're okay where you are. You do need to make, your actions need to match where your goals are and what the things you need to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're not taking that personal responsibility away, if that makes sense. All right, so let's move on to the second one. Number 2, the fear of failure. This one has really bitten me a lot of times, in different ways. I think sometimes I have just seen failure like almost like a ghost, or like, I don't know, like a little thing in the corner in the closet. It's like, ooh, it's there, it might be there, I know it's coming. Instead of approaching it head on and seeing it for what it is and being okay with it, I've been like afraid of it and tried to like hide from it, I think, a lot of my life. And that's no way to live, because we've been talking about all these people that we envy, like on social media or whatever, and like most of those people have like failed a lot in their lives. They failed, and they failed often. And they've looked at failure and seen, hey, this is what I need to deal with. I need to focus on head on in order to get to where I want to go and to get to that measure of success that I desire. And so, I don't know, like, why do you think that we hide from this so much? Like, what are we so afraid of,
I think it could depend person to person. I think we sometimes we're not put in the positions early to fail, and we're not confronted with failure early in our life. That's why I love people playing sports early or being in positions where there is failure. We have everybody gets a ribbon society, and where nobody loses, and that's just not reality. And we need to put ourselves in positions where there is risk. You might lose, you might get hurt, you might fall, you might fail in front of people, in front of an audience. They might laugh at you, they might, boo. I mean, whatever it is, those things are building that mental toughness, that thick skin, those calluses that we need to say, okay, that happened. I missed all my shots in basketball. I didn't win the race. Whatever it is, my speech didn't go well. I blew the presentation. Like, that should hurt, and we shouldn't like that feeling. But we know, okay, at the end of the day, I didn't die. Nothing terrible happened. I didn't lose a bunch of money. I'm okay, and now I can learn from that.
Yeah.
And so I think the earlier, as people who might be parents, you can expose your children to those kind of those putting them in that arena where they have to face failure is really important. But then as we get older, we can still put ourselves in positions where there is risk, there is that fear.
Something outside of our comfort zone, outside of what we would normally do.
Yeah, where there are going to be a significant chance of losing, because then that's going to build, that's not going to only apply in whatever that is, it's going to apply to other areas of our life, and it's going to give us that mental toughness that we need.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of years ago, I was auditing a few classes at Butler, and for one of the classes, I wrote a paper and I had to read it for this, I don't know, some sort of class-wide thing. That's the short version of the story. And so students and faculty were invited to this particular reading of my paper. And I remember one particular professor was in the classroom that wasn't teaching the class, but I had had him many other times. And then I invited Matt to come and watch me. And the reading of the paper was, I thought, from my perspective, okay. I had worked really hard on it, but I wasn't like overly, excited or frustrated with it. But one interesting thing that Matt pointed out afterwards was I was like fumbling through some stuff. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I was like putting myself down a whole bunch, like while I was reading it. I don't know if you remember this. And I had no clue I was doing this. And it was kind of like an embarrassing moment to think back, like, oh yeah, I guess I did say that. But I didn't realize it, at the time. And so I think sometimes we don't even realize that we're sabotaging ourselves in this way. Like, we don't even realize that we're making a mistake and then putting ourselves down and then doing it again, or we're not putting ourselves enough in those situations and then thus not failing enough or whatever. But it's interesting how we kind of get in these like psychological ruts a little bit with how we're thinking, or I don't even know if you would call it psychological, but just like thought patterns that we just go over and over and over and over again within our brains that we don't even realize we're doing it, right? And I was even thinking today, we were playing this game where you throw a Frisbee into a can.
Can jam.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was dreadful at it. But it was really a good exercise to work on because it was really tempting for me to put myself down. It was really tempting. I did it a little bit, but I was trying to really work on my mental toughness in that moment because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to throw it and not even get close at all. And to be the worst one, But I was trying to embrace that. Like, okay, this failure, this learning, this time is about developing that mental toughness muscle.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing to then, okay, failure is going to happen if you put yourselves in positions to fail, which you should.
Right.
And that's
the key, right?
Before I'll go to my other point, but that just triggered a memory. Like, I remember back in, different areas where I would, and I'm sure others have had this memory or maybe are still doing this kind of thing, where if it was a group of kids, even growing up into high school, and they would ask you to do something, to be the person to present, or be the person, even in sports, do you want to run this race in like an Olympics type setup? And I would never want to raise my hand because of being afraid of failing, being afraid of being not good enough.
Right.
And I wasted an opportunity. Yeah, maybe I would have failed,
right.
But I could have learned. And that's the thing.
Exactly.
You're going to put yourselves in positions to fail. The important thing is, what are you going to do after that? And I think
Exactly.
a lot of times we fail and then we let that just sit and we don't do anything about it. And we say, okay, I'm just not good at whatever X is. I'm just not meant to do that.
Right.
And one thing this is just a small example, but one thing I like to do, I try to play basketball pretty frequently. And after the games have played, after that day, and this is just recreationally, but even in this example, it's important to me. It's important for me to get better. Mm-hmm. I go through the games mentally. What did I do well? What could I have done better?
Right.
What do I still need to work on? And then I'll go work on those things, because that's, it's in my power to either get better or to say, well, I'm just not good at that. I'm not going to try that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to go play anymore.
Right.
And so we have the power in that failure to determine what the next step is. Are we going to wallow in it and just let it dampen our spirits, or are we going to learn from it and get better?
Well, and are we going to take on that belief? Like, well, I'm just terrible at that. Okay, yeah, you might be not great at it now, but could you get better? Well, yeah, you could. You could practice. You could choose to think, hey, I know I'm getting better. I'm getting better all the time. I'm practicing, changing, like we've said so many times before, changing the way you think about it and starting there and then getting to work on actually doing something about it and giving yourself an opportunity to fail. I even think about the classic example of, Albert Einstein, or was it Albert Einstein? No, it was, I'm sorry, it was
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison, I apologize, who found 1,000 ways, not to make a light bulb, right? And so he was giving us that classic example of how failure can lead to something amazing. So number 1, are you ready for it? Are you ready? Are you ready? Worrying about what people will say or think. Matt already kind of touched on this actually earlier. How many times have you made a decision in your life, and I'm asking myself this as well, that's not been true to who you know you are, or who you, or what you want, or whatever. It could be as simple as saying to somebody, like they gave you a drink, they gave you a regular Coke and you wanted to diet, and you wouldn't say anything. You just go about your merry way instead of saying, no, I actually wanted a diet. I know that seems like small and kind of maybe like petty, but the importance is that you're asserting yourself and you're saying, no, this is actually this is what I would like. Politely, obviously. But how many times do we sit there and we not assert ourselves and we worry about what somebody may or may not think about us? And if we respond a certain way, or if we say this thing, or if we do this thing. And here, I want to give you a little insight that I had a few years ago. I read this book. I can't even remember the name of it right now, but it's so great because he's like, I want to let you in on a little secret. No one is thinking about you. No one. Only you are thinking about you. And the point is that we think about ourselves the most, right? And so we sit here and worry so much about what other people are thinking or saying or whatever about us, but 99% of the time they're thinking about them and not you, right? And so yes, they may have an opinion about this or that, but at the end of the day, they're not thinking about you likely anyways, and their opinion, from my estimation, where I'm sitting, doesn't matter to me nearly as much as the people who I trust, like my husband, like my family, like the Lord, like my dear close friends. Those opinions matter the more to me, right? And then even beyond that, the Lord is the number one person, the number one being that I need to be aligned with, right? And so as long as I am pleasing to Him, every other opinion, what somebody may or may not be thinking about me or what I'm doing or whatever else, I kid you not, one time, my brother and I had a picnic. My parents live at this house where it's like a normal, like kind of suburban looking house or whatever. But the back of their house has like a little, like a flat area, and then it's sort of a hill like this, okay? And then there's sort of a flat area on top. So we went to the flat area on top of the hill, and so other people in the neighborhood could see us sitting on this hill, okay? Because there's like sort of a common area there. And we're having a picnic, and a friend of mine, she's on the top, she's like, we're in middle school, she's like way over on the other side, she's on the top of her little playground, and she sees us having a picnic, and she thinks it's like a religious service. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with having a religious service on the top of your hill, whatever. But my point is that she totally assumed something totally wrong about the situation, but it didn't matter because we were having a picnic, right? And so it doesn't matter what other people's perspectives are. It only matters what is happening, what is going on with you. Ryan can confirm, he was there. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, just how many times do we just agonize and we just torture ourselves with this question?
I mean, I think we do it all the time. I think, there's I kind of separate into two categories really. Like in regards to people's opinions. There's kind of this society out here, these people that, larger society who we may or may not know a lot, and maybe acquaintances, people we go to church with, extended family members, and we're worried about their opinion because we don't want them to think, what is Matt doing over here? Why is he doing that? That's weird, that's strange. He's not qualified to do X. Why is he now trying to be blah, blah, blah? And then there's, like you mentioned, our close family members, there's our spouses, there's our parents, our siblings. And so I think there's two things there. And I think, there are probably going to be times that, the classic example, is of your parents, them wanting you to be a doctor or a lawyer, and you want to be a cook, or you want to be a chef, or you want to, be an artist, and they're concerned that you're going to be a starving artist, that kind of thing. And so, like, those are tough things, and those people, their opinion does matter. And so we have this fear from society that you can try to, I think both fears are real. Both things are things that we struggle with.
Absolutely. I mean, they're real.
But there's, you can sort of say that the society's isn't as concerning. But if your parents are saying, why are we don't want you to be an artist, we don't want you to do this, but that that's what you want to do, that you have no interest in being a pharmacist or a doctor or a lawyer or dentist, then those things are really tough. That is a really hard thing to have to go through, to potentially disappoint your family and do something that they really don't support you on. And so, but I think, this is kind of all, what No More Some Days is about, is that it's your life. And I do think that if people really love you and if they really care about you, that even if you do something that is disappointing in the moment to them, if they see that this is really fulfilling to you, this is really something that you are passionate about, this is something that you are going to really put the work in. It's not just a hobby or something that you're aimlessly dreaming about that you're not going to put the work in for, then they will come around. But you have to be willing to have that painful discussion, make that painful decision that I am going to pursue this because it is something I love and I have the autonomy to do so. And sometimes I think it's almost I don't know if taking is the right word, but sometimes we have to take our autonomy, we have to take our decision-making power away from people who we've let kind of influence our decisions and make those life decisions for us. And we have to...
Well, we've allowed them to take
allowed them to. Or, as growing up, family, of course, makes a lot of decisions for us. But there's a certain point when we have to take those decision-making power on ourselves. And so I think, those are definitely hard things that you have to do and hard things to deal with.
Oh, yes, I totally agree. And I think, this is something, it's funny. I remember a dear friend of ours, one time she was talking about how her parents still criticize her driving or something. And at the time she was telling me this, I think she was in her mid 50s. And so I was just like, they still criticize your driving? And it's her point was it still happens, it's still there, there's still things with people that are close to us or people that are in our lives that we hold on to or that we deal with. And we have to continually remind ourselves if we want to take responsibility for our lives and live the life that we know we're supposed to live and not live a life because we're afraid of what they may or may not think about us and our decisions. If we're going to make that decision, if we're going to do that, then we've got to take the pen back. We can't let somebody else write our life story. We've got to take the pen back. We've got to write our life story and draw a boundary there and say, this is my life. And I love you and I appreciate you and I respect you, but this is me over here. And then, like I said, for the people that are outside of that are just bystanders or follow us randomly on social media, they matter. They're wonderful. I'm sure they can be wonderful people that are wonderful blessings to society, and we love them from afar. But if they're not speaking into our life, if they're not a person that we've chosen to be in that close area with us, then that should matter even less, right? That shouldn't be even a blip on the screen. I know that a thing these days is trolling and being really rude and mean on social media, and I just don't even understand it. But those kind of people, just delete, block, ignore, whatever. Like, get that out of your life, because those opinions, they're not God's, and they're not the people closest to you. And get it out, you know?
Yeah, I think Gary Vee has an exercise that he does where you have these detractors, these people who say negative things about what you're doing. Think for a moment, and this is sort of a morbid example, a morbid exercise, but I think it makes sense. If in that moment you got a call from somebody saying, oh, your parent passed away, this horrible accident happened, would that detractor's opinion matter to you at all? No, it wouldn't, because now you are so focused on the things that matter,
really
the
good.
people that matter.
Right.
You're going to be so in that moment of, oh my goodness, I'm not going to see that person anymore.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I should have called them and talked to them, and I've been worrying about all these other things. Then that detractor's opinion isn't going to matter at all. You're not going to care a bit.
Right.
So in those moments, like focusing, even doing that exercise once a day or throughout the day, just, okay, it really focuses your mind on what's important to me. It's the people that I'm close to. It's my family. It's my relationships with family, my relationship with God. It's the things that I'm doing to try to live a fulfilling life. Those things are important to me, not somebody saying, oh, you shouldn't write the book. What do you know about that? Or you shouldn't pursue that sport. What do you know about that? Oh, you can't run a marathon. You're not athletic. So those things don't matter if you really have to focus on the things that are really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So, I mean, that's the 3 that we had for you guys, and hopefully, we're trying to bring maybe a little bit of a new perspective to things, but also just help remind you guys that we're on this journey with you, and there are things that can detract from this journey. Not just things to add, but things to detract, things to shed from. One thing that I try to do now with my new goal planner is like things I'm saying yes to, things I'm saying no to. Like, what am I saying no to? And one thing I want to encourage you to say no to in the month of October is say no to time wasters like these that are maybe not like, something that's like we're doing actively with our hands, with our body, we're going somewhere, but it's with our mind, it's our energy, it's our focus, think about those things. So
I was going to add that we also would like you to say no to drugs in the month of October.
Say no to drugs always. Not just in the month. Not just in the month of Well, we've got Ryan with the payphone line from What About Bob too. So, people are like payphones. Sometimes you just have to hang up and try again, right? So anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this and had a little fun with us. We just appreciate you guys, and we would love for you to follow us on YouTube. You can find us at No More Some Days. We'd love for you to subscribe, share it with your friends, share if this video blessed you in some way, please share it with your friends. And then the second thing we would love for you to do is follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram account. It is No More Some Days, all one word with a Z. And I've been posting on there every day. Matt's been contributing as well. We've been trying to put different stories, different things that we're doing. We went to a really cool place yesterday that we were trying to share. So we're both, it's a collaborative effort, and we just really are excited. We want to continue to expand. We've talked about a lot of different expanding ideas, so we'll try to bring those to you as soon as we can. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for your support. Please let us know if this was helpful. If you have a takeaway or something that is in your life that's a time waster, we would love to know what that is and how we can help you. So hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Bye.